Hey guys, welcome to the Layre and Eustice show. This is Layre, and today we're going to be playing some Planetside 2. Specifically, I hope to use this video in order to show people some tricks for flying, because piloting in this game is kind of difficult. And with the upcoming PS4 release, it might be helpful to have, for those players to have some tactics going into the game. And of course, I'm sure any PC player could appreciate some experienced piloting. Now, to be honest with you, I'm no Sky Knight. But I do have quite a few hours in the cockpit and quite a bit of experience flying an 8A Scythe. I don't really tend to do hover duels, the 1v1 hover duels, but those skills, well, to be honest, they can often get you killed. While those pilots are great pilots, of course. So I suppose the first thing that I kind of should explain for our new pilots is that when you pick your faction, you'll have three options: the VS, the TR, and the NC, and they've got a lot of differences to them that would take a while to go through here. But for a pilot, a fighter pilot specifically, you need to know that each of them have a different fighter aircraft. The VS one, and the one I have the most experience with, and you can see me flying right now, is the Scythe. It's got improved turn speed, and let's be honest here, it's the coolest looking of the three. The next one is the TR Mosquito. You'll probably see some of those today, along with the NC Reavers. But the TR Mosquitoes have a higher base flight speed, while the NC Reaver has slightly better weapon systems from what I remember of reading about the differences. Practically, though, all three are perfectly flyable, and there are aces who fly any of the three. Now, I think that the first thing that you should know when you're flying in this game is what sort of elevation you should be at. When you're flying in Planetside, you need to remember that you have a number of threats to contend with. Some of those threats come from the ground, and some of those threats come from the air. The threats that come from the ground, you would naturally want to be higher and far away from, normally. I mean, that's the convention. It's harder to get hit with flak or other sort of dumbfire, not lock-on ground stuff from high up in the air. It also makes you harder to see, which means that someone with an A to A weapon might not actually even catch you going by. But there are disadvantages to going too high up as well. Now, in order to dodge lock-on missiles, you have to break the enemy's lock. And if you look when you're along the ground, that's not too difficult. As you can see, it's very easy to dodge and weave between objects, between mountains and whatnot, like on a Marish. If that breaks visual contact with their crosshair, then you will have dodged the missile. You will break off their lock. Now, one thing that catches a lot of Sky Knights up is that they use extremely high elevations, like I'm about to right now. And as you can see, this brings you much higher up. It allows you to cross distances measurably faster, of course. And it gives you an advantage over other aircraft. You know, because as you can see, if you saw someone down there and they couldn't see you, you could get the jump on them and potentially kill them rather quickly, because Planetside has a rather low time to kill, even for vehicles. But when you're up here, as you can see, there's nothing that you can use to break visual contact with those lock-ons. So, and if you look, do you see how long it takes, even with afterburners, to get to the ground? Now, I'm using the dogfighting chassis, of course, so some sites are faster than me, but even so, it seems difficult. That's why I actually advocate that you keep an eye on what sort of elevation you need to be at, and when possible, fly close to the ground. This will give you a lot more cover and make it a lot easier for you to survive for longer periods of time. Of course, you do have to worry about sort of going near bigger fights, because then fire from the ground can chew you up. So it's something to be careful about, and like anything else in this game, it's good to do in groups. The more aircraft there are in the sky over a fight, the more different targets the AA is going to be divided through, unless a good commander is organizing them to focus fire a single target. Okay, so as I was saying, you need to keep an eye on the elevation you are when you get into fights. Now, let's go looking for something to get into a sort of engagement with. Now, this is the live game, of course, so, and these are real players, many of whom are better than me. So, I can't really promise that I'm not going to die or something. Ooh, there is an enemy galaxy. These things are big, but ooh, 2 mosquitoes. Okay, what I'm using is the engagement radar, and that tells you the distances away other aircraft are from your current position, along with the type of aircraft they are. Now, as you can sort of imagine, this is immensely helpful when you're flying in the first person and can't see everything around you. It also tells you their distances from you, and probably the most important part of that is the fact that you know when they're pursuing you. Those aircraft back there, I realized, were not pursuing me because they weren't getting any closer. Now, that's the other thing. You noticed I ran away from that fight. Now, the reason I did that is primarily because you need to know when to run away from a fight in Planetside. Oh boy, looks like I'm about to die. Let's see if I can get away. He's probably... Nope. And if you do invasive maneuvers like this, you can reduce the number of shots taken, but as you can see, he still got me. Now, it might seem like I'm not very good, but that's partially because I'm talking. The other reason is just because, like I said, there really are people better than me, and it takes a lot of experience to fly in this game. You can be outnumbered. Lots and lots of different things can happen. We need to remember that. It's always important to sort of be conscious of the numerical advantage. Planetside is not one of those games where you are going to realistically take on large groups of enemies with just yourself. And that's been something that's always kind of been happening. So I'm going to pull another scythe here. The thing I learned that let me really learn to start dogfighting in this game is how to go about surviving. Because at first, you're going to be outfought by everyone in the sky, and you're going to be destroyed pretty quickly. But what you need to sort of learn is how to evade fights and how to get far away from them. There's an enemy aircraft. It seems to be a Liberator. He has a lot of armor too, so let's see how he does against me. Ha, they're already firing on me. I'm using Coyote missiles. Those lock on as they near a target. Ooh. And he just slammed into me, which is another thing that you actually have to remember. The ESFs are on the bottom of the weight priority of aircraft in the game. And what that means is that when you slam into them, you get destroyed, but they don't. And a common tactic that larger aircraft are going to use against you like that is they're going to try and pull up very, very quickly if you're coming onto them, so that you slam into them and are destroyed. Because oftentimes you'll be the only one pursuing them, or one of a very few. That tactic is more common with galaxies because, of course, they take even less damage than the Liberators do for hitting you. But it's something to always keep in mind. And to be honest with you, I can't even tell you the number of dogfights I've had with other pilots where I guess they decided that they weren't going to be able to take me, so they decided to slam into me instead, so the dogfight would kind of end as a draw. Now, Liberators are crewed by multiple people. They have guns, and they have guns that are controlled by multiple people. And that's part of the reason that they're so strong against other aircraft. I mean, you might imagine that a bomber like a Liberator should be weak to a nimble strike fighter like a Scythe. But Planetside is all about teamwork. And of course, something like a Liberator, which mainly employs teamwork, is going to have a much, much better time against a single-man fighter. Now, of course, Liberators do tend to go down quickly when confronted with multiple scythes, because the gunners will have trouble taking on ESFs that are coming from multiple directions. So that's another thing to remember. Another thing when flying is just to sort of keep an eye on your elevation. Among new pilots, probably the biggest A-to-A weapon, or not A-to-A, ground-to-air weapon that the enemy can bring to bear against you are trees. That's right. You will probably spend at least a few of your first attempts at piloting flying through and into trees. In order to sort of learn how to maneuver around terrain in this game, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you go into either the VR training room or at least a mostly abandoned continent and do some flying that will place you through objects, like send you through small holes and whatnot. It'll give you an idea about how large your hitbox is around the aircraft, and therefore sort of teach you how to fly and fight using them. Now, it's always good, when possible, to fly alongside allied aircraft. Let's see where this galaxy is going. We're also faster than those other aircraft, so that's something to keep in mind. And he's shooting at me. So I'm going to get out of the way, actually. Yeah, sometimes allies shoot at you in this game. It's a little odd, but, you know, people. The reason it's good to fly with allied aircraft, as I said before, is because it divides the AA between multiple targets. But also, it basically takes your enemies and puts them under pressure for another possible gunner. While these air-to-air fighters can carry multiple weapons, as you can see me switching between my nose gun and my missile launcher, they can only use one weapon at a time. And that's something that becomes really important when you're trying to fight multiple things. But, you know, I've talked your ear off enough. Let's go looking for to pick a fight with another ESF, which I will probably lose. There's a mosquito on that landing pad. I'm going to stealthily take it out. Now, you might think that that's dishonorable, but to be honest with you, I want the certs. But it does bring something to mind. One thing that you should always be mindful of is the fact that these aren't strictly fighter aircraft. They won't stall if you slow down. As you can see, they are fully capable of hovering, and I don't even have the hover chassis, which improves that capability. Some people use this in order to keep a gun trained on their enemies, but I personally don't really like that, because standing still in the air makes you very, very, very vulnerable to ground fire. It makes you vulnerable to incoming people. And there's a Reaver. Let's go pick a fight with him. That is a very strange maneuver. Oh, there we go. Actually, I think that's lag on my part. Crap. A lot of people would much rather you just use the nose guns. Now, he's turning to get away, and we have an allied fighter. Like I said, this game is all about teamwork. And we got him. That was pretty good. And as you can see, this can be very rewarding in terms of certs, because you can get lots of service ribbons from the weapon. Vehicle kills are naturally that. Now, if you see those blue marks on my screen, those know A-to-A turrets on bases. Those are dangerous. They can shred you up pretty fast. And while some pilots sometimes can take them on, it's usually helpful for them to have multiple targets to focus on when you're doing that. That lets you make strafing runs on them in relative safety as they attempt to get everyone, so to speak. Now, another thing to bear in mind is watch where you're flying, as in watch the map. As you can see, I'm currently flying in VS territory. That means that this territory is controlled by my empire, and what that means is that there's not very likely to be enemy anti-air on the ground here. You can, of course, make forays into the enemy territory in the air, but you need to be a lot more careful when you do so. If you do want to see some good pilots, even on YouTube, I can actually suggest that you check Argatar of Prey. He's an NC pilot on the server, and he's a really, really good duelist, among other things, and he probably has a ridiculous amount of time in the cockpit. But that can teach you sort of the ins and outs of dogfighting. But I want to focus on flying, because a lot of these flying methods are so basic, but they'll be the things that will let you sort of get to that eventual level. I mean, I'm still progressing. I'm working on my air superiority directive there right now, actually. I only have a few more kills to get, and then I'll have it. So, you want to stay behind them, obviously. Ooh, there's a ground lock. Now that that's happened, of course, that means that two people are after me. One of them is now this fighter plane that I just attacked. So I want to sort of get away. And as you can see, he's on my 6th. Or, you know, behind me. And I have to... I have a lot of time flying since the game released, and, you know... It's even I'm not that good. So this is something that you need to be persistent about, but it's very rewarding because all of that frustration turns to really great feelings once you start to get kills. And like I said, there are really much better pilots, and you should check some of them out. I mean, they're not going to be giving you all the same information. If you're a new pilot, I definitely think I have a lot to offer, but why not do as much research as you can? And there's an enemy liberator. As you can see, it's really nice when you can sort of get the jump on them from a fair distance. And I should get out of the way as I'm gradually taking fire. Now, another thing to bear in mind is you want to turn around specifically when you are reloading. There is no reason for you to be vulnerable while you're reloading because you can't fight back at all. So always have like a mountain or something nearby to, you know, provide you with safety. Now, these guys are probably repairing this. I'm going to bombard it for a little while longer, see what happens. Ooh, or maybe not. A Valkyrie. Oh, actually, one really, really cool thing that I need to show you guys is this. Now, if you start dogfighting, you might find that it's not very rewarding at first. And the reason for that is because you're not getting any certs, because you're not killing anything. Well, once you start learning how to survive and you get away, you can get out and repair your own vehicle. Now, as you take damage, that will give you lots and lots of certs from just repairing, from repair ribbons, and all sorts of nice stuff. And, you know, it's not as good as some other sources of XP, but it's something to remember as a new pilot. And it might be what lets you actually feel like you can keep going with your air experiences. And airlock. He's going to get me with an air-to-air missile launcher, but I broke that lock. But he has his machine gun, so he's probably going to still kill me. I'm actually going to drop my altitude, get out, and repair. And watch all of the XP this gives me. I mean, it's pretty nice. Just repairing your own vehicle. Now, there's no shame in just getting a kill assist. There's no shame in ducking out of a fight you can't win. Remember, these things cost resources, and the more practice you can actually get is just the better, really. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna follow that mosquito, and we'll see if we can get into a fight with him. Turn him around, and as you can see, when it's just the two of us like this gives him a much better position on me. He can just keep turning around and around me faster than I can come and get him. So that's the value of reverse maneuvering, and I think that that's a good place to stop, because I highly recommend that you go look up how to do that maneuver. Thank you for watching. It's been a delight to help you guys learn how to fly. I hope to see you in the game. I play on Emerald, and hell, if you want to hit me up, that's Hallow on Emerald. Hell, if you just want to fly together, even if you're already an experienced pilot, it's always fun flying with other people, and I always want to get better. And for those pilots out there that are probably a lot better than me who are shaking their heads at this video, you know what? Feel free to hit me up too. I wouldn't mind learning from some of you guys. And so like I said, man, the sky is brilliant fun. All right, see ya next time on the Layre and Eustice Show.